Good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about the basics of electronics. So, first of all we want to familiarize the term called system. System, it is defined as collection of components connected together to perform a function. Which means performing a function means if we are considering this as a system, if we are giving an input, this function will be performed on input and we are getting output. So, such components which is needed are connected and collected called as system. One of the example for the system we can say adders, subtractors, etc. So, here we want to concentrate on this term, the components. Without the component, system cannot be manufactured. The components made up of materials, and these materials are classified into three. They are conductors, semiconductors, and finally insulators. These are the three materials that are classified with respect to the term called conductivity, or we can say it's called as resistivity. These are not the same. If you are representing the conductivity by a letter sigma and the resistivity by a letter rho, the relation between these two parameters are given by sigma is inversely proportional to rho, that is conductivity is inversely proportional to the resistivity. So, here the conductors are having the sigma value high, then insulators having sigma value low. In between these two, the semiconductors conductivity is ranging, that is the semiconductor conductivity will be lower than conductors and higher than insulators. Now, let us concentrate on semiconductors, and here in this subject we are mainly concentrating on the material called semiconductors. First of all, I want to introduce you about what all are the classifications or the types of the semiconductors. Semiconductors are generally classified into two. They are intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductor. These are the two semiconductors classified with respect to the process called doping. Doping means addition of impurity. So, the addition of impurity is called by the process called doping. With respect to the doping, semiconductors are classified into intrinsic and extrinsic. First of all, look at the intrinsic semiconductor. In an intrinsic semiconductor, it is called as pure semiconductor. That means no impurity present, but extrinsic is impure. And this extrinsic is classified into two. One is called N type and second one is called P type. In N type, majority carriers are electrons, minority carriers are holes. Whereas in P type, majority carriers holes, minority carriers electrons. So, this is actually the basic idea about a system, about the component and about the materials and especially about a semiconductor. And this is the general classification of a semiconductor. Once again, the semiconductors are classified into two. One is intrinsic and extrinsic depending on the process called doping. The pure semiconductors are intrinsic, impure semiconductors are extrinsic, and this extrinsic is again classified into N-type and P-type. The majority carriers are electrons and minority carriers are holes for N-type, and the opposite case in the case of P-type. So, these all are the basics about the electronic devices, and with this basic we can move to the next section of our